Hello friends, once again welcome to my YouTube channel. In every YouTube channel you will get DSA everywhere. Lot of resources are there of DSA in YouTube channel. So I decided to make something different, some content on development, dev. As you know, dev is as equivalent, as important as DSA. So in today's video, we'll discuss something on development. But before starting the session, I would remind you all people that you must subscribe and like my channel. जब तक सब्सक्राइब और लाइक नहीं करोगे चैनल को तब तक और वीडियोस नहीं आएंगे, इसलिए जल्दी से जल्दी सब्सक्राइब और लाइक करो चैनल को। थम थम थंबनेल लाइक करो ताकि और भी अच्छे अच्छे वीडियोस लाए और भी इस टाइप के वीडियोस लाते रहें और आप लोग सभी देखते रहें। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट आवर टुडेस सेशन। सो फ्रेंड्स, दिस इज द रिक्वायरमेंट, this is the gateway requirement. So I will make you understand about this requirement and I will give you the solution of this requirement in later videos. But before refer to my solution, you people first try yourself to implement this requirement. I will make you understand entirely of this requirement, how to analyze this requirement, how to implement this requirement, how to test the requirement. So let's start. So as per this document, it is saying that it is to fulfill the client server environment to make the customer requirement. So you know about the gateway. Gateway is basically it is used to convert one data protocol format into another, like from some IP protocol to DOA protocol or from CAN protocol to LEAN protocol. So gateway used to convert one data protocol format to other. So here the what the gateway activity will be doing here, the network node payload. So you can see the network node payload format to normal payload format. So it will basically convert the network node format, payload format, normal payload format. You know, network node payload format means data will be serialized, and that serialized data will have to be deserialized in the normal payload format, and then back the to serialized data and serialize the data and send it in the network. So basically here this is gateway requirement, client and server. So gateway server will act as a gateway. So gateway server will be there, and client will send a test Ethernet packet. The client will be sending the test Ethernet packet, and server will modify, will perform some action on that test Ethernet packet, and then response back to the modified data, and the response and give the response to client back. So first here this is the network node format. So in network node means one node will be the client, another node will be the gateway server. So here is the server gateway will act as a server. So there is a request format. So there will be request format, there will be response format. So request will be sent by client. Client will send the request to the server, gateway server, and gateway server will send the response back after modification to the client. So first we'll check what is the request format. So request format is the first source address where you have 2 byte, target address where you have 2 byte, length is of 4 byte, encrypted data 1, encrypted data 2, similarly like this. Each encrypted data will be of 1 byte. So it is data, encrypted payload data, and the CRC is of 1 byte. So what is the length? 4 byte. 4 byte means it is 1 byte is 8 bit. So 32 bit. So 2 to the 32. It means 2 to the 32 payload. So what is the length? What will be the size of length? That much data, payload data we can send through the Ethernet packet. Okay. So 2 to 32 means data bit we can send. So each payload data is of 1 byte. Okay. So and CRC is of 1 byte. So first we'll check for the source address. Source address is like 0880. This is the first source address. E008 is the second source address. Means first client will have this source address. Second client will have this source address. The target address 3108 and 1380. These are target address. So what is the length? Length is the encrypted payload data plus CRC. So encrypted payload data length means this data payload what we are sending plus CRC. CRC is 1 byte. So it means length. So to calculate this data payload, so length what we can do, length minus 1. 1 is the CRC is 1 byte. So length minus 1 will give us the length of the payload data. So how much payload data we can send? So if suppose length is 5, so what we can send payload data, length minus 1, 4 means 4 byte we can send. So each of 1 byte data, it means each 1 byte data, it means 4 byte data, 1 till 4 byte data we can send. So this is the length purpose. What is the payload data? Payload data to be encrypted using 0 method. So we have to encrypt the payload data. payload data. So this client will send this data before sending to the server. It will encrypt the payload data and then it will send to the network. That is the gateway server. So it will encrypt with this method, below method. This payload data has to be joined with the 0A. So this is specific thing with A has to be joined. So each of the payload data, so data 1, so data 1 has to be joined individually. So data 2 has to be joined similarly. Similarly, data 3 has to be encrypted. So similarly, individual data has to be encrypted, and then in the network we have to send. What is CRC? CRC is basically to check the integrity of the payload. So we'll calculate this CRC using CRC8 algorithm. So CRC is basically the checksum. So here we are using the CRC8 algorithm, CRC8, CRC16, CRC32 is there. So we'll basically use here the CRC8 algorithm. You can find this CRC8 algorithm in internet. You will get this and you can implement of your own like that. So next, this is the request format. Similarly, we will see the response format. So this is the so now this is the response format. So what is this in response format? So there will be two response, in positive response, negative response. So in positive response, what will be there? If the first whatever the header is there, so header will be validated by the gateway server. Gateway server will validate the header with the below conditions. Some conditions will be there that I will tell you. So header, if header validation success, then only data has to be sent back in response, in a positive response. If not, then data has to be sent back in a negative response if any of the header is invalid. So here in this case, source address is 3108.1380, target address is 080 and E008. So for this, basically server will have this the client source address. Whatever the client source address was there, that will become the target address in case of server. Then server will send the response, that will become the target address, and the client target address what was there, that will become the source address in case of server. When server will send the response, that will be the source address. That has to be just exchange. So length is same thing, encrypted payload data plus CRC. Then payload also has to be encrypted, but here we have to encrypt it with 055. So this is the important thing. So server will encrypt the payload data with 055, but client will encrypt with 0AA. So what is CRC? Yes, same thing. CRC we have to calculate using CRC8 algorithm. So this is the positive response format. So first header has to be validated, then payload has to be modified and the response back. So what modifications will be there? We'll check in the later slide. Next stage, negative response. Okay, so now in negative response, what is the source address is there, target address is there, length is there, failure code is the CRC is there. So here instead of the payload data, failure code is there. Failure code is 1 byte. If the data is header is not validated, header is invalid, it means there is no means to response back. Means payload will not be sent because there is the header is only invalid. So in that case, what will send? We'll send a failure code of corresponding why the header is invalid. So that corresponding region will send here failure code. What is the source address? Same thing. Target address, length is same. What is the failure code? This is the important thing. Failure code is 01, 02, 04, 08. You can see here multiple of 2. So you can implement some logic here to implement these things. 1, 2, region multiple of 2. So now we'll check what is this 01 failure code means. So 01 means what is source address invalid. Source address invalid. So when source address will be invalid, so there will be the expected source address. Since gateway server will be already knowing what will be the expected source address, what will be the expected target address. Okay, so these are the what is mentioned here given the requirement. These are the expected source address, expected target address. Suppose client is sending 31 as a source, instead of 31 it is sending 32 as a source address client. So in that case, gateway server will validate it, but gateway server was expecting 31, but client is sending 32. So this source address will be invalid in that case. Failure code will be set according to source address invalid. So 01 will be set. Similarly for target address, instead of 08, client sends 81. That is the invalid target address. So similarly, now 04 is the integrity failure. So what is integrity failure? Integrity failure will be checked by the CRC. So client will calculate CRC, and in the CRC will be sent with the Ethernet frame format. And similarly, gateway server will also calculate CRC on its own end. Okay, so Once that CRC matches, then there is no indicated failure. If CRC doesn't match, then there will be indicated failure, and failure code will be set accordingly. As far as this payload length mismatch. So what is payload length mismatch? Payload length mismatch is, so length, as I said, if length is 5 and the data what we are sending here, it should be 4, like right, length minus 1, 4, but data we are sending only 3 byte data. So what is this? Then this will be length mismatch. So length we are sending of 5, but data we are sending only of 2 byte or 3 byte instead of 4 byte. There will be, in that case, payload length mismatch will be there, and we have to set the 08 for this failure code. Next, failure code should not be encrypted, but in this case, failure code should not be encrypted. This has to be minded, because data, if payload data is there, then only will encrypt the data and then we can send. But failure code, there is no means of encrypting the failure code, right? So we don't have to encrypt the failure code. Just we need to set the failure code and we have to set it back. Similarly, CRC8 algorithm also has to be calculated with CRC8 algorithm, and we have to set here. Next, so what this functionality will be there? Gateway application functionality. Coming to this, whenever request is received, so we will receive the request, gateway server will receive the request. Whenever gateway server will receive the request, all the failure mechanisms should be checked. So all these failure mechanisms has to be checked first. Means this will be the header validation part. So first header validation part has to be done. If header is validated properly, then only next step has to be done. If failure found, then appropriate failure code has to be sent back. So appropriate failure code has to be set, and then in response format, negative response has to be sent back to the client. If there is no integrity failure, suppose there is no integrity failure, CRC check is valid, successful. If there is no integrity failure, then we have to isolate the actual payload data from the request. So actual payload data, the client will send the payload data, that server will isolate it from the client request. It will isolate it and then it will modify as per the step 3. What server has to do? It will swap the high and low nibble of each payload data byte and send back as per the response format above. As per the response format. So swap high and lower nibble means one nibble is 4 bit. So 1 byte is there. Each data payload data will have 1 byte. It means 4 bit has to be lower and higher has to be swapped. That gateway server will be swapping, and then that will be put as a response. So which response it will come? It will come obviously as a positive response. In negative response, we are not sending any data, right? Payload data. So in positive response, we have to send back to the client. Next. So next, gateway application functionality we have done. Next, this node thing. So this important thing is there. So what is this? What above mentioned data transfer will be happening on TCP/IP. So basically, this will have, we have to design it on the top of TCP/IP protocol, that is socket programming on client and server architecture. Client and server code you have to write. Gateway server will act in the server code, and client you have to send the through client Ethernet test packet. So we are sending here the Ethernet test packet. In the when I told you, that was the Ethernet frame format. So for second step is showing multiple requests shall be sent to the application. So which application here? Gateway server application. So gateway server application will be receiving the multiple requests. So multiple client will send the multiple requests. So one client is sending one request, at the same time other client is also sending the request. So this is at the same time application at the same time, and all requests has to be processed and given response, either positive or negative. So all the requests has to be processed. None of the request can be skipped by the server. It is not the server is responding one request and skipping the request from other client. It has to be processed, and all the requests from all the client. So the request should not be skipped to process at any case. The server should be listened on port number 13400. This is the particular port number has been given, which you have to implement. You have to keep the port number 13400, and IP could be of loopback IP address or any IP address. So loopback IP address is 127.0.0.1, or you can use your local IP address. So anything can be there. So first of all, you try yourself, and I will soon publish the development of this code completely with proper. You can refer your code. You can understand my code, and then you can improve yourself. So this way you can learn your development. Okay. So today's session till here, and before winding up, I will say please subscribe and like the channel. सब्सक्राइब करो, लाइक करो चैनल को, जल्दी से जल्दी, तभी दूसरा वीडियो और अच्छा वीडियो लेते आएंगे, इसका सॉल्यूशन जल्दी लेते आएंगे, इसलिए जल्दी से जल्दी सब्सक्राइब करो। और दैट्स ऑल, थैंक यू, बाय बाय।